Hello everyone and welcome to this GCSE Sociology lesson looking at the concept of identity. By the end of this session, I'd hope that you will be able to define identity and have a think about the kinds of things that might influence our identity. To get you started though, Year 9, what I'd like you to do is to just check your knowledge of some key terms so far. So there are 9 key terms up there on the board. And what I'd like you to do is define them really quickly. Now, I use these a lot in my lessons, and you'll see this going forward. Normally, I'd give you a little printout, and you'd have it be a starter. You'd have a couple of minutes to give it a go. And what I ask students to do is to do as much as they can first from their memory. So, how many of those can you define from your memory? If you can do those in one colour, and then anything that you need to look up and find the answers for, because you couldn't remember it, do it in another colour. I'm never going to mark them. I'm never going to tell people off if they don't get full marks, things like that. But it's for you to know which terms you're confident with and which ones you need to just go over and make sure that you remember. So anything you know in one colour, anything that you have to look up or you're not sure about in a different colour. Warning, the answers are on the next slide. So there are your answers. You can whiz through and mark your work, see how many you got out of 9. So a norm is an expected way of behaving. A value is something society thinks we should all believe in, something that we aspire to. Primary socialisation is the process of learning norms and values from your family. So the very first way that you learn norms and values, hence primary is first. Secondary socialisation then is how we learn norms and values from other institutions in the family. So once the family has done its job, other institutions start to take over, like education and the media. A role is a set of norms associated with a particular position in society, for example, mother, teacher, doctor, customer. All of those things have their own particular norms. That would be what we call a role. Your ascribed status is the status or position in society that you are born with. For example, as a son or a daughter, as a particular social class or a particular ethnicity. Achieved status is the position in society you gain for yourself, usually through your occupational qualifications. Role conflict is when someone finds 2 roles they have that clash. For example, being a mum and being a teacher, sometimes there is role conflict there. If it's a nativity play day or whatever like that, it's difficult sometimes to get the time out of work. And your culture is your way of life that's made up of all of your norms and values, the roles, the statuses, all of those things come together and make a culture. Today's lesson then is looking at identity, and hopefully it shouldn't take us too long to whiz through this concept. So your identity is how you see yourself and how others see you. It's as simple as that. Your self-identity is how others see you and how you see yourself. A range of factors may influence our identity. For example, we might define ourselves as Black, Welsh, English, a woman, a student, gay, a mother, etc. Lots and lots of factors covering lots of different areas. Many, but not all, and it's important that we know that, aspects of our identities are shaped through our socialisation. So huge parts of what you perceive to be your identity will come from your socialisation. And it links back to that lesson we did looking at nature and nurture. Which bits of your identity are you born with, are ascribed, and which bits are nurture? Which do you gain through your socialisation? And sociologists are interested in this, interested in the extent to which our identities are shaped by others or whether we choose our identities for ourselves. So all of these things on this little mind map that I've pinched from a textbook can shape your identity, from your religion to the region that you live in. For example, somebody who lives in London might have a very different sense of identity to someone who lives in Yorkshire, as well as all of things like your education, your peer group, your family, the media, all of those things, your social class, your nationality, your sexuality. All of those things can shape how you see yourself and how others see you. just have a minute or so just to pause and have a read of some of those ideas and see where you fit in this kind of little mind map. Based on the definition of identity and based on that little mind map, I want you to answer these questions. So question number 1, choose 3 things from the spider diagram on the previous page and explain how they might influence an individual's sense of identity. And number 2, suggest 3 ways people might be able to influence how people see them. So how can you influence how people might see your identity? Number 3, describe the 3 most important factors you think have influenced how you define yourself and how others see you. So can you explain your answer for me with examples? And number 4, suggest 3 ways you influence how others see and define you. For example, as a particular type of person, is there a particular, way you want people to see you? For example, cool, sporty, a bit odd, scary, goth, etc. So answer those questions. 4 sentences are always best, so you know what you wrote about when you come to revise it. And there's a challenge on the next slide for anyone who's interested. So, deeper level thinking. Based on today's lesson, do you think society tells you what your identity should be, or do you choose it for yourself? And if you can explain your answer, and it's absolutely fine to think that it's a bit of both if that's what you think, just as long as you explain it. Can't wait to see what you come up with.